Everyone hits a bump in the road. What do you do with it? Be inspired as we explore the ways people experience, navigate, and manage the ups and downs and twists and turns in this road trip called life. Cameron Auxer faced a devastating, life-altering illness, but she says illness is not the end of the world. And so she created pajamadays.com, a site that deals with chronic illness. Through her site, a growing Twitter following of over 12,000 people, and her book, When Bodies Break, Cam touches the lives of tens of thousands of people, inspiring them beyond disability or illness. Hi, today I'd like to welcome Cam Auxer. Cam, give us a little bit of background on yourself.
Well, I'll try to do this as succinctly as I can. But I was pretty much brought into this world with chronic illness. I've had asthma and allergies all my life. I've developed a lot of interesting things over the years that my body just was doing, and nobody could really give me anything definitive about it, and give me a diagnosis. I had loose joints. I had a lot of pain in my joints, and uh, just migraines and dizzy spells and things like that. I developed arthritis early, and turned out that after a while, they somebody finally listened to my carotid arteries, and this was after I had had a number of heart attacks. I had 3 heart attacks in 2005 over 5 days or 8 days time, and I had another one in 2008. And so finally, somebody's listening to my carotid arteries, and they hear a very noisy pulsation, and put me through some tests. I found out I had a rare disease called fibromuscular dysplasia. And with that, I was part of the research at Mass General, and they determined over a period of a few years with their research that if you have this disease, which they call FMD for short, uh, visible in any of your arteries, you've got it in your whole body. It's systemic, and it impacts the connective tissue. So that finally answered the question as to what was going on with my body. I have bone cysts and cysts in a lot of my organs, and all sorts of weird stuff going on. So the FMD was pretty much responsible for that. As far as the allergies and asthma are concerned, my parents' heavy smoking was the cause of that. But and I've had 3 cancers now, and I'm waiting to hear on a biopsy of a possible fourth right at the moment. Um, I've had uterine cancer in 2002, which resulted in a radical hysterectomy. I had breast cancer diagnosed in 2018, and last year, about a year ago, I finally finished my treatments for that. I had chemo, targeted drugs, and radiation and surgery for that. And then I had a skin cancer that needed to be surgically removed last year on my Achilles tendon. So yeah, I've had chronic illness and cancers, and so my health history has been rather complicated, to say the least.
That chronic health issues are just a game changer for all of us. I think one of the things that's most difficult with it is the isolation that results.
Yes, I think the time after my first 3 heart attacks, which happened in Australia, and kind of it just knocked me off my feet. I lost my memory, my short-term memory, completely for 2 months, and it launched me into such dreadful fatigue. And I tried to keep up with some things because I had some commitments, but I really spent a lot of time on the sofa watching television. Now, eventually, I moved back to the States because my father needed assistance, and I still was spending a lot of time in bed or in my recliner. And I found that it was so isolating, and a lot of people who I knew socially kind of gave up on me and would get upset with me if I didn't show up to things that I said I'd try to go to. And I relied more and more on connecting with people online. I got involved with Twitter and also with Facebook because I had started a website. I needed something positive in my life, and I needed to give back to the community that was helping me to come to grips with my situation and with a new diagnosis of the FMD. So I started to get involved in the chronic illness community in social media. I started to connect with a lot of people through my website as well because they started to submit things to my website, and the website grew. And it just changed. It was a game changer for me because I was getting into such a deep depression from losing the ability to live my life and to have control over my life. And I think just being able to connect with other people and, you know, get support and give support, it gave my life meaning again. It wasn't the same life I had before, it was a new life, but it was really giving me so much on a personal level. And I was finding that I was learning new skills. Creating a website is a big deal for me because I'm not the most uh, uh, technologically savvy person in the world. But it's a dangerous thing to get that feeling of isolation. It really plays tricks with your head. And I always encourage people to connect online because it really does help you to see things more clearly instead of going down the rabbit hole and spinning out inside your head when you're alone a lot.
I totally agree. I when I first got involved in social media, I thought I would hate it, and quite the opposite has occurred. I've met the most interesting people from all over the world as a result of social media, particularly Twitter. My Twitter feed is a combination mostly of cancer people and travel people, which is kind of an odd combination.
Yes.
But the travel people are fun. The cancer people have a lot of heart. Together, they're just a great audience.
Hmm.
But social media is a real used well and used for a good cause is a is just remarkable. I think people are accessible, and I think from a health standpoint, you can get that anecdotal information that may be the piece of information you need so that everything falls in place and you can make a decision about which path to take.
Yes, it's really good to be able to get different people's insights and opinions on things. To have a group of people that you can trust. And I know that social media can contain a lot of dangerous people, a lot of negative people, a lot of trolls. But I found that there's very little of that in the chronic illness community that I've been involved in. And it's a rather large community. On Twitter, I've got 12.3 thousand followers, and I've got probably a little over 1,000 people following me on Facebook for Pajama Days, which is my website. And yeah, it's just I don't know what I would have done without that community. And people are saying that to me as well, that they're so glad that they've connected with me. So I know that I'm contributing to something. And that is so important to have a healthy mental state and just to have a good life, I think.
Oh, I agree. I think actually having a purpose, a mission of some sort in life, which usually involves some sort of service or giving back, is critical to a well lived life. And it's really important to your mental health. And in dealing with long term illness, I think we have to pay special attention to our mental health and figure out what are the tricks that work. Is it, if you can get some exercise, does that help you? Is it meditation? Is it connection? You need all these different things, and everybody has a different combination, obviously, to make sure that you keep your head in the game.
Absolutely. And, it's even more important now with the limitations that we've had imposed on us because of a pandemic.
Yeah.
If you've been isolated before, you're super isolated now because nobody else can really come and help you out. It's really such a unique uh, experience, but we as people with chronic illness, we ace this experience. We know how to um, be a little bit more okay than most healthy people as far as having limitations imposed on us. We're used to it. And we have resilience, which kind of helps us through it as well. I think attitude as well. It really helps.
Yeah, one of the things that I've been pondering with this whole isolation with COVID-19, how would you compare the experience of being isolated with chronic illness or particularly cancer versus being isolated with COVID? Do you think the dynamics are the same or are they a little bit different?
I think they're different in that there's fear involved with the COVID isolation. Um, I've I've gotten to the point in my life where I'm more healthy than I was, back when I had first been diagnosed with FMD and had all of that was 10 years of chronic fatigue syndrome. And I was able to get out and about now and then, even at my worst uh, of it. But yeah, now it's like um, I'm kind of scared to go out there, even if I am able to go out there. I limit my contact with people um, because I really don't want to get ill. And I know that with my health conditions, I could get very ill. Now, I have been sick already back in mid March, and there's some speculation that it was COVID. I have to get another test for antibodies soon. Um, and as they're saying, if it's a minor contact with a person who is contagious, then you'll probably have a mild case. And I think that was my case. But if you have a lot of contact with people, you have a better chance of getting a serious case of it. So my fear is driving me to be more isolated. But I'm finding ways to deal with it. And I know that like I said, I've got resilience from having the many years of chronic illness. And so, to me, it wasn't that bad to have to be a hermit because I think, generally speaking, I'm pretty much a hermit by nature anyway. But I've also introduced things into my life now that give me purpose, entertain me, and keep me sane because of this self imposed isolation and this level of it. I,
That's really interesting, how we cope and how we find specific things that really pull us through these periods. How are other people in the chronic illness community doing through your online contacts? Are they finding innovative ways to deal with this, or what kind of feedback are you getting there?
well, I think for the most part, there are some people that are doing a lot of things like I am, is like playing music. I bought a ukulele. I know people are doing that kind of thing. They're doing art, but a lot of people are just spending more time on uh, social media as well, and talking about what's going on with them and their fears about it because it's scary if you've got a compromised immune system.
Mhm.
Right now, you really have to be careful, and so many people that I've connected with are saying that they've done everything they can to be safe, but there are some of them that are catching COVID anyway. So I hear or read daily reports on some people that have been going through it, and it hasn't been easy on them. So, yeah, I from a lot of what I've read, a lot of people are saying, well, I've been doing this anyway. I've had years of experience with this. Even though it is a little bit different this time because there's so much danger involved in it, but and so much fear. But yeah, I think for the most part, some people are seeing it kind of as business as usual, and they're doing whatever it takes to keep themselves distracted, entertained, and motivated.
In addition to putting together a really significant online community, you also put together a book called When Bodies Break. What inspired you to do that? Because the book is just terrific.
Thank you so much. Well, it was one of those things. I get ideas, and I always kind of underestimate how big that idea is going to be. Um, I was working on my website, pajamadays.com. That's DAZE, not DAYS. And after 3 years of my own submissions into it, my own posts, blogging and book reviews and things like that, I also started getting a lot of people submitting their own materials, and it really made a very rich kind of a experience on this website. And after 3 years, I thought, there's a book here because all of these people are telling these stories. We have one section of the website called Joyful Workers, and it's about people that have had been working or doing something in their lives, were diagnosed with an illness, and it changed their lives, and they had to readjust their lives to be able to find joy in it, and they did. They rose like phoenix out of a flame. And so these folks were telling their stories, their personal stories, and plus our personal connection over time. I was learning more about them, and they were becoming friends. And I thought, this is where inspiration comes from, and motivation, and enriching other people's lives. Reading personal stories, and especially personal stories that you can relate to. So I also saw a trend in there of so many interesting tips on how people were living and making a good life out of uh, accepting their chronic illness and learning to adjust.
Share some of those tips. That's an interesting observation.
Well, for one thing, I think learning to navigate the medical system is a biggie. It's
Yeah.
a big thing. And one thing that we have in the book is uh, something that I was given permission to reprint by Martine Ehrenclau, or Ehrenclou, I think it might be pronounced. But she wrote a book about being a take charge patient.
Mhm.
And so she had this take charge patient toolkit, and she let me reprint that in the book. And it's fantastic because it helps you to organize your medical information, how to ask the right questions of your doctors, how to prepare for your uh, surgeries, for your doctor appointments, all of these things that are just so vital. And even in our useful links part of my website, uh, there's a book called How Doctors Think. So both the book and the website try to help you to be able to be a better patient, in that you you can get more out of your medical system and your doctors if you know how to deal with them in a good way.
I think by being a better patient, you have to be a take charge patient. I know at one point I tried to track down my medical records. I actually did it with a company that specialized in that, and they were unable to get everything put together, and I'm constantly finding errors and things and everything else, and unless you take charge of your own health, nobody else is going to do it for you.
Right, because you're just another number, and you really have to establish a relationship with your doctors. You have to organize your information. You have to read those reports, and when they're wrong, you have to tell people. I mean, I had somebody X-ray my thumb, told me I had a broken thumb. It wasn't broken; it had arthritis in it. That kind of thing. I had in a report once that I had a brain tumor. I didn't have a brain tumor, but it's unbelievable the mistakes that they made. So yeah, it's really that's a very important aspect of both the website and the book. But when bodies break, the subtitle is How We Survive and Thrive with Illness and Disability. So we with these stories, and there's 32 stories in here of people. I was able to get 31 people, including myself, who had been involved with my website to become a part of this project. And they wrote their personal stories, which are so inspiring. And I kind of challenged them to write some essays on different topics about how to live better with chronic illness. How do you survive and thrive with it? And so, I mean, it's just such a wide spectrum of things in here about, how you deal with a new diagnosis, for example, um, how you manage to even do things like grocery shopping, which, if you don't have a caregiver or somebody to help you with these things, you really do have to find ways to be able to do these things so that it's not going to kill you, and it's not easy to do these things. Um, we have some essays on emotions and how you deal with changes and suffering, which is a big, big thing here. Um, there's so much to emotions, and a lot of people who have chronic illness and cancer or cancer, um, there's such an emotional aspect to it that really affects and impacts your mental health.
Oh, it's an absolute roller coaster, and it's very difficult to deal with. I think one of my favorite parts of your book is the fifth chapter, your passion, your purpose, and starting over. Of those essays, what is your favorite?
That's kind of hard to pick because all of them had such a lesson in them. You range from Starting Over by Anne Goucher. She had just one thing after another in her life that made her stop and have to reinvent herself and start over again. And then it got to the point where Lyme disease did that in a very severe way. Um, it, I think her story is one of resilience, a very strong story of resilience, because even now she's still suffering very badly from aspects, well, it's kind of side effects of the Lyme disease. And yet she still talks about starting over again. Um, so it's being able to have that sense of hope and resilience that's so important. But then there's another story in here, or essay rather, um, that Louise Bibby, I'm sorry, of Australia had written, and it's more of a practical uh, essay about regaining your sense of purpose and income online. So I'm a very practical person, and I love to have practical information for people. But also, I think having the inspiration and the knowledge that people do start over.
Yeah, and I think that's really a really important point to make because everybody hits a bump in the road. And for many of us, we have to find a new way to reinvent ourselves, a new direction in our lives. And I think knowing that other people have been through this is very reassuring because you tend to go through this in isolation.
Yes.
If you could rewrite your story, would you?
I think about that sometimes, and there are aspects of it I would like to rewrite. I think in parts of my life, I kind of didn't take life seriously enough that I kind of wasted some time that I really could have invested in doing more things that bring me joy and would have supported me better. Having said that, though, um, I'm so blessed that I've had the experiences in my life. The things that life has thrown at me, which I didn't have a lot of control over, I only had control over how I dealt with them. But also things that I did myself that made my life difficult. I've learned things from them. I learn, and that is a key. I know so much about so many things now from what I've learned of my mistakes, and also from having the carpet pulled out from under my feet so many times with my health. And it's made me realize that I'm not really afraid of life so much anymore, or what life could do to me, because I know that I can deal with it in one way or another, no matter what. I and I think that is such a blessing to be able to feel that way instead of living in fear all the time. Not that I don't have some concerns about the future, but I know that I've gone through so many things in my life and I'm still here. So, it's not like I say, bring it on, but it's like, okay, I'll deal with it if I have to deal with it.
It's incredibly empowering, I think. And if you could give some advice to empower others, just two or three pieces of advice, what would you say?
I'd say inform yourself. If you have cancer, if you have chronic illness, or even if you're just going, through a bump in the road, inform yourself about your situation. See, if there's research out there that can give you some uh, insight into what's going on. See if there are other people who have gone through what you've gone through, and see how they've dealt with it. Some things may not feel right to you, but other things may feel perfect, and it'll help you through. And share with other people when you start to go through things, um, and people have helped you, then in turn around and lend a hand to other people, because that just enriches your life so much. Uh, Being able to contribute to other people because of what you've gone through. And it gives you a sense of purpose. That sense of purpose is so important. So no matter how you feel you want to, create a sense of purpose for your life, if you felt that you've lost it, just look inside and see what gives you joy, see where your passion is, and then run with it. Because sooner or later, that will be a focus that's going to turn into something much bigger for you. That's how you recreate your life.
Thank you for joining us today. I hope you found something in today's podcast that inspires you along your own life path, because sometimes a bump in the road is actually a portal into a more conscious and meaningful life. Bump in the Road is a production of Cancer Road Trip. Subscribe to the podcast, follow us on social media at Cancer Road Trip, and you can learn more at www.cancerroadtrip.com. Until next time, be safe and be well.